Hi guys, Leba Mukubela here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're discussing opportunities in the midst of crisis, looking at the South African context, but also looking globally. So I hope this video is going to shed some light, help you think about your own businesses, your own life, your own career, and where the opportunities may lie. Welcome back. Okay, so today we're discussing finding opportunities in the midst of crisis. You know, the conversations lately are all doom and gloom. You know, you think about the load shedding, the energy crisis in South Africa. We look at unemployment. I literally saw a stat, I think yesterday on Twitter, that South Africa now is #1 in the world in terms of unemployment. That was, yeah, that one hit home. I think we were what, 37%, and then the next country is like on 17 or 19%. I was like, wait, what? Literally such a big gap, you know. And it's never good when your country is #1 in the wrong things and in bad things, you know. So the conversations lately have been doom and gloom. You know, we're seeing quite a large number of people leaving the country and immigrating to other countries. I saw another report that, you know, about 8,000 people have left the country, which has taken obviously money away from the tax base, which means the remaining taxpayers in the country would basically now have to pick up the weight for the entire country, I guess, and the budget of the country, which is never a good thing, especially with such high unemployment rates. It means then that we have a very small number of people in the working class that are able to contribute to the tax base. So all those things contribute to the doom and gloom, right? But here's my thing. You know, I've been trained and I've been raised in a way where, you know, I think it's an advantage also of having grown up in the township and being raised by my grandparents, that even in the midst of issues and in the midst of challenges, you are trained and you are taught to look for the silver lining, even when things are not conducive, even when your back is against the wall, right? So I've always had the mentality and the mindset to look for solutions more than to focus on the problem. So I acknowledge the problem, but I would rather invest my mental capacity and my time in trying to find a solution rather than dwelling on the problem. Because I'm 33 years of age this year. In my 33 years of life, I still haven't seen the use of focusing on a problem. If anything, it adds to anxiety, it adds to stress. But if I focus my mind on finding solutions, even in the midst of those problems, so it's not a fact of ignorance. So I'm not ignoring the problem. I acknowledge that there's a problem. Hence, I'm looking for the solution. But my focus, it's not to make a mountain out of an anthill. My focus is that this is an anthill. I recognize the anthill, but what then is the solution to mitigate whatever challenges come through this anthill? So in saying that, I just want to share a thought with you guys. With all the things that are happening globally and even in South Africa, we are seeing now that there's a re-emergence of COVID-19. I don't know why. Maybe this time they'll call it COVID 2023, or I don't know. We'll see whatever name they come up with. But it looks like there's a re-emergence of COVID. My wife and I have a business that deals a lot with the Chinese, and we were struggling to find our supplier, only to find that she has COVID and she has been booked off work because she's getting the necessary medical attention. So it looks like there's a re-emergence of COVID-19, which brings up anxieties on other people. People are panicking. There's a big bank that I'm doing a talk at in the new week. I'm talking at their leadership event, and when I was being briefed by the management team of this bank, they said to me they're even preparing for stage 8 load shedding and possibly even a total grid collapse. So you can see that it's such doom and gloom everywhere. Everyone is preparing for the worst and things like that. But my view is, this is not the first time It's not like what's happening in the world and even in South Africa is happening to our generation only. It's not the first time. In recorded history, there have been more than 200 pandemics. You talk about the Spanish flu, you talk about the yellow fever, Ebola, and even COVID-19. There have been over 200 pandemics in the history of the modern world, right? So we don't even know what of the other pandemics that happened prior to the modern world and the recording of these things. We can even, if you believe in the Bible, you read the Bible as in the historical context, you see that there were famines and all these things also in certain parts of the world like Egypt and all the like. So we can call those things also pandemics. So just in the history of modern civilization, there have been more than 200 pandemics. South Africa alone, since the 1960s, we've had 5 recessions. 5 recessions. When I think about this, I'm thinking to myself, when our great-grandparents were buying groceries for 2 rand, and all of a sudden, because of recession, they're spending 10 rand. They were saying the same things we were saying now. They were saying, no, this country has gone to the pits. It's over for us and all these things. Mind you, your 1960s, it was still apartheid and all these things, right? So there was another recession in 1994 as well, if I remember correctly. So we can blame all the things that we want to blame, but it's not new. It is the cycles of economies and it is the cycles of life. There were generations before us that went through the same thing and they thought it was the end. But here we are, many generations later, living in the same country. And all that's happening now is, let's remove the politics. Now, when I say this, is that I am not downplaying and disregarding the sense that our leadership, the leadership of this country needs to do better. I am not absolving them of the responsibility of leadership and the responsibility of serving the country and doing things right. Most of our problems also come as a result of corruption and the things that they are not doing right. So I am not in no way downplaying and undermining the political context and what has been happening to get us to where we are as a country. But my view then is, things like recessions and pandemics have nothing really to do with your government, but it's things that affect all economies. And if we look at COVID-19, for example, it hit everyone. And with the energy crisis in our country and all the things that are happening now, my view is that we need to recognize that this doesn't start with us. It's not the first time. And in order for us to find solutions on how to navigate and even thrive in the uncertainties and the challenges that are presented to us, we need to go back and study previous generations. Like I said, there were 200 pandemics. There were 5 recessions just in South Africa. The last one, I think, was 2015. And then you need to go back and then study what are those businesses that thrived even through those recessions and pandemics. What did they do? The Bible says that study the patterns. Mimic, it says mimic actually. Mimic the patterns of those who came before you. So although in that biblical context it's speaking about leaders and church and church leaders and the like, but we can even bring it and put it in this context to say what is happening with our country, specifically as South Africa. It's not new. We have gone through 5 of these recessions before. We have gone through pandemics before. But it is with us as entrepreneurs. Remember, when you say you're an entrepreneur, you are a solution bringer, you're a value bringer. And entrepreneurs are those that are able to sit back and look while everyone is going crazy and everyone is stressing their minds out of an issue and everything. Our job is to sit back and look at the issue and say, yes, I recognize the problem, but where are the opportunities? Let me make you an example. Did you know that Uber Uber was launched literally during the Great Depression. I think it was in 2009, yes. When the Great Recession, I think, started in 2008. Uber was launched in 2009 during the height of that recession. And look at where Uber is today, because they recognize certain opportunities in the market changes. There's a gentleman I was watching a tech talk, and this gentleman was studying the 5 attributes that contribute to the successes of businesses. And he looked at things like the product offering, the pricing, the timing, the business model, the team, and things like that. And in his study, I think he studied about 200 businesses. In his study, he recognized that timing was the biggest factor. Timing was the biggest factor, because there were businesses that had great business models and great teams and great products, but they launched at the wrong time. A few years ago, I think it was 2012, when I was working for another agency, marketing agency, there was a client that brought us in. I won't mention names for the sake of getting sued and whatnot. But there's a certain big tech company that launched this decoder device. This decoder device would give you access to what Netflix is, basically. So they were trying to rival DSTV, but instead of satellite television, you'll be able to stream. And you get this decoder, but over and above the streaming of movies and series and of content, basically, this device also came with home automation plugs. So basically, you were able to control your home lights, control your appliances, and even close curtains through your phone through this decoder. Great product. Great product. Timing was bad, because 2012 data was way more expensive than what it is today. And for that device to work, you needed data to operate that device from a streaming perspective and also from a home automation perspective. So the timing was off, and therefore that product never got off the ground. But if they were to launch the very same product in this day and age where we have fiber and the like that has contributed to the data prices going down, although we still, in South Africa, we still pay a lot for data. But if we're to compare to 10 years ago, or 2012, 2011, we were spending a lot. I remember the previous agency I used to work for, my main client was ATA, which is now Telkom Mobile. That's the main client that I worked on from a brand activation perspective. And when they launched ATA More, which was this 2+1 gig per product offering, we launched this data plan. It was 2 gigs plus 1, so it was 2 gigs in the afternoon, and then 1 gig night surfer, or during the day and night surfer, let me put it like that. And that 2+1 was 149 rand. And at that time, that was considered cheap. Today, with the same 149 rand, I get what, 10 plus 10 gigs? Yeah, I think I get about 10 plus 10 gigs. With the same 100 and less, okay, maybe the difference is about $50, but I'm getting 10 gigs. Pretty much at the similar price point. So you can imagine that you can do the numbers. So Uber, so timing is quite important. Uber was launched during a recession. Let's talk about COVID-19 specifically in South Africa. Uber is American, so it's one thing to speak about American businesses. Let's bring the context back home. We had COVID-19 3 years ago. Lockdown. There's a business called OneCart. OneCart thrived because of the lockdowns. I'm not too sure when exactly OneCart launched, but they were positioned perfectly. That when lockdown happened, because most people couldn't go to shopping centers and whatnot, they opted for buying things online. And because of online shopping, there was such a huge buzz of online shopping that now people were getting more comfortable with buying things online. Just 2 years before that, no one would have entertained as much as we have the thought of buying groceries online. But because of the lockdown, the opportunity came about that even OneCart was able to maximize and grow. And I think also they were bought by one company. I'm not too sure I can't remember which company bought them. There was another one called Bottles where they were doing alcohol deliveries. I know that one was bought by Pick and Pay. I'm not too sure OneCart who bought OneCart, but they got significant funding and growth. And now they are doing way better than what they were doing before lockdown. Another success story of lockdown is Drip. You know, when I met Lekau during lockdown, and I met him purely because we had mutual friends that will always say to me that you need to meet this guy and all those things. And when I did my feature on Drum Magazine, I think it's Drum. I can't remember, but I think it's Drum Magazine. He was also featured, and so we started having chats, and then I went to his first warehouse in Midrand to go meet him, but also to buy 2 pairs for my wife and I. I'm actually wearing the shoes now. Bought them in 2020, just before it blew up, and I can tell you from where that man started. And even when I met with him, he was saying to me that he was blowing up so much on Twitter that he put all the money he had in getting stock, and he was waiting, I think it was 10,000 pairs or something like that. This is a guy who started with 600 pairs, if I remember correctly, and went to 10,000 pairs literally within a few months. Now, between 2020 lockdown and today, Drip has 30 stores. They're employing probably hundreds of people. They're probably in the 20, 30, probably 50 million rand turnover at the moment. And all this, he had a great product. He's a great businessman. He's a great entrepreneur. I'm not taking that away from him. But timing was also a huge factor, because now people were more open to buying things online. People understood the concept of having to wait longer because things are not operating as per normal. And then because also he had delays with his 10,000 pairs. So even with that, so he took advantage of that, you know. And also during lockdown, many South Africans started recognizing the need to support local brands, and so the timing was perfect for Drip to launch, and he rode that wave to where he is today. So all I'm saying is there's opportunity in crisis. The only way to spot opportunities in crisis is also to have the mindset. Get the mindset right. Getting the mindset right says, acknowledge the problem, but don't overemphasize the problem. Don't get stuck up on the problem. Acknowledge the problem, and then look at the opportunities. 3 questions, top of my head, 3 questions that you have to ask yourself, or it's probably 4 questions that you have to ask yourself in the moments of crisis in spotting opportunities. 1, what is the change that is taking place in the economy now? What are the changes with consumer behavior and the economy? What are the changes? Note them down, right? For example, now with the whole electricity issue, we are seeing more and more people buying inverters. We're seeing more and more people buying UPSs. More and more people going to alternative energy sources like solar and right? So people are having an understanding and an appreciation of alternative energy sources at the moment. So that's change number 1. That's one change that we're seeing in the economy. Second question you have to ask yourself then is, what opportunities are there because of those changes? What opportunities are there for those changes? And now, when we are answering these questions, we are not building a business model. So don't restrict yourself. Write down as much changes as you see. Write down as much opportunities as you see. This is not the time to be fine-picking things. We will fine-pick things in the next stage. But this stage, write things down. You're not building a business model now. You're not finding products now. We are looking at what are the opportunities that exist. Third question is then, what are the skills that I possess, my business possesses, my team possesses if you have a team, that what are the skills and resources that we possess at the moment. So you write down everything. So you have a good digital marketing team. You have great relationships with suppliers. Da 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 da. You have great relationships with your bank, and you have access to credit. Whatever. What are the resources and the skills that you have available to you? Then the last question is, how can you combine the changes with the opportunities, with the resources and skills to create new business models? So now this is the next step. So if you've recognized that people are now more open to alternative sources of energy, what are the opportunities in that? So maybe we realize that maybe UPSs and inverters are too expensive for normal people. So spending 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 for some people is too expensive. So because I'm just making an example, guys, you would have to test out the example I'm making. But because you are recognizing that there is you also have, one of your skills and resources is that you have a good credit base with your bank. So you have credit in terms of credit cards and overdrafts and things like that. So you can then take that opportunity, mix it with your skills of digital marketing and also your resources of having access to credit, buy UPSs and rent them out to people. So instead of someone paying 10,000 Rand for a UPS or for an inverter, they can, or a solar system, they can rent it from you for 500 Rand to 1,000 Rand a month, which is much easier. And for you, it create the revenue. It's a recurring revenue stream. So you know every month you're making that money, and whatever credit that you used for buying these things, the customer is paying back your loan. At the same time, you're making revenue. So that's just an opportunity, right? So all I'm saying is, in summary of everything that I was saying, recognize that what is happening is not new. There are generations that went through recessions and pandemics just like us. And our job is to go back and study those businesses and study those leaders and study those societies that were able to thrive even through pandemics and recessions, and see what they did and bring it into the context of today, and see where and use that as a mirror, or as binoculars, to be able to spot the opportunities in the market. But all this requires a different mindset. We can't be debating about problems all the time. We already know we are in an energy crisis, and we can't rely on the government. Unfortunately, it is what it is. If anything, my personal belief is that societies were never supposed to rely on government. Government's job is policy and security of the public and things like that. Never necessarily that we need to rely on them. But that's just my view. Obviously, not everyone shares this view. But we can't rely on government. We can't look to them to solve the problems. They don't know how to solve it. If you hear them talking about load shedding, it has been the same thing they've been saying for the past decade about load shedding. There's nothing new that these guys are saying. So if you are going to still wait on government, you're going to have a problem. So we need to recognize that the solution comes with us. It requires a mindset shift, recognize the opportunities, and then also start asking those questions and look for the changes, look for the opportunities, look for the skills and the resources that you have, and see how you can combine that to come up with new business models. And let's build that, and then take advantage of the timing of the season, so that you build an organization and you ride the wave, and you build the next Drip, you build the next OneCart and the next Uber. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Please share this video with other people that you think would benefit from this. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, guys. God bless.